Hello everybody, my name is Sniping is Fun. I welcome you all back to my next The 5 list. I'm going to present to all of you here on YouTube. I know it's been a while since I've done a YouTube video. It's been about 2 weeks or so, and I did release about late last week a video basically talking about where I've been, like, you know, what's been going on and future content that you're going to see. And I thought a simple way for me to get back into doing videos again, because it's been a couple weeks since I've done it, is to start back up with my The 5 list, which I do have about 6 or 7 lists planned already. So I'm going to spread that throughout every other video I plan on doing, like I talked about in that video, from Ruby predictions and stuff, to top 10 lists, and music things, and roster stuff, and drawing, whatever the heck else comes from this channel. But you will still continue to see The 5 list like I've been doing for quite a while now. And today's The 5 list that I'm going to start back up with is going to be the first of a trilogy of series of 3 lists. And you probably could tell because of the way I worded the title, The 5 Fire Emblem main characters / lords that I feel should be DLC in Fire Emblem Warriors, or include in a Fire Emblem Warriors sequel, a Fire Emblem Warriors 2, which, given how popular this game probably might turn out to be, despite all the negativity towards it, is bound to happen. They've been talking about a potential sequel. Hyrule Warriors might not get a sequel, but this game probably will get a sequel. So whether these characters get included as DLC or in a future game, there you have it. And I know a lot of people, there's a negativity about this game, focusing exclusively on Shadow Dragon, Fates, and Awakening, and I know all the stuff that's been going on with the DLC, basically focusing more on that as well. That's not for this video. I'm going to be talking about characters I feel should be DLC in it or in a future game. That entire negativity, the conflict, the fans, pros and cons, whatever, will be its own discussion video, which I'll probably bring out sometime next week, alongside a video I'm going to be doing about Fire Emblem, the next one in 2018 on the Switch. Like I said, that's going to come. That's not for this one. And I know a lot of people then come to say, oh, but the DLC is only the 3 games. No, it's not, people. They've only announced 3 packs, and they said if it does well, which it's bound to do, because the freaking Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors games do pretty freaking well. They're spin-offs with One Piece and Zelda and Gundam and Berserk and everything. Fire Emblem in itself is a pretty popular Nintendo Intelligent Systems franchise, and this crossover is going to do pretty well. We're going to see more DLC in the sequel or whatever, so it's going to happen. And I know what they said, it's only going to be the Shadow Dragon, the Fates, and the Awakening, but that's basically what they announced now, and I'm sure they're not going to just totally ignore the rest of the franchise. That doesn't mean I'm not going to include characters like that in my list, because, like I said, this is the main characters lords. There's going to be a side characters list and a villains list, because I feel if I did this list all just characters in general, it would be unfair, because I'd be picking villains, but then I want main characters, but I want to pick main characters, but then I pick side characters. I'm giving each and every category its time of day in these lists, because there's characters in all 3 categories I really would like to see in Fire Emblem Warriors, DLC or a sequel. So, before this intro gets off in too long, because I've been going about 2-3 minutes now about this, let's get started with my The 5 main characters / lords that I want to see as DLC in Fire Emblem Warriors or in a sequel. And I'm going to start off with a simple one that a lot of people do technically want and have been asking for a lot, and that is Ephraim from Fire Emblem Sacred Stones on the Game Boy Advance. This was a pretty fun game overall. Him and his twin sister Erica defending their kingdom and stuff like that, which is basically the main plot of most Fire Emblems, saving their kingdoms from rival armies and lands and whatnot. He is a pretty interesting character in it. He's basically a lord. He can class change and go up to a great lord. He uses lances and spears, and if you go into a great lord class, he rides a horse. So I don't know if the game, if Fire Emblem Warriors is going to adjust that depending on how high a level you get. You can class change and stuff like that. If you can ride mounts later on, but if that happens, he easily can start riding a horse. He's one of the lance users of the series, which not many characters in Fire Emblem Warriors at this point have lances in it. So he could stick out quite well. He is quite popular. He is quite requested, like I said. And he would have decent stats to kind of diversify him from the rest of the cast. He does have pretty good speed and skills, whether he's on his horse or not. He's pretty average in strength and defense, so he kind of would be the one that would do decent damage, but not really good damage, and not be able to take a whole lot of hits, but he can speed around the field a lot, and he has the skill to probably do special attacks and cause more damage to certain people, more so how that relates from Fire Emblem's tactics and gameplay concepts into a Mushu game. He'd be pretty interesting, and I just think he is obviously, besides his sister Erica and some side characters like Joshua and whatnot, that would be the key Sacred Stones characters to represent in the Fire Emblem Warriors. And I do believe Ephraim would be a good choice for some Sacred Stones representation in Fire Emblem Warriors DLC or Fire Emblem Warriors 2. My second choice is going to go to a more recent character, although he's not a recent character in the series, he's a recent character in terms of coming back out with the remake, and you know exactly who that is, because one of the characters are already in freaking Fire Emblem Warriors, and that goes to Alm from Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia, or Fire Emblem Gaiden, if you want to go with the original back in the day. And that is, you know, we have Celica in there already, and a lot of people are questioning, where the hell is Alm? Alm is one of the two main characters in the game. And it's like, you can't have Celica without Alm, you can't have Alm without Celica, because they're the two major characters. And he is different from Celica. She is a mage sword user, even though they don't essentially have her as magic user in the game. I don't know if when you level her up enough, she can start using magic in Fire Emblem Warriors, because I haven't really looked into it. The game's not out yet, at least not in America. It is out in Japan. So he diversified himself because he's straight up just a sword user. I know we have a lot of those already, but he is, you know, a different type of sword user. He's not like Marth. He's more naive than Marth. He has strong sense of justice and everything, but he's not super prince oriented because he's not a prince. So he's a fighter sword user. He is another user of the Falchion. We have multiple of those in the game, so maybe that's the reason why they didn't include him yet, but he should be in there with Celica, and he has some good strength and skill, like, you know, in luck stats in this game. He's just not that high in speed and defense, so he'd be slightly slower, slightly able to, you know, take more damage with his hits, but he's just more damage out, and his skill and luck can make him maybe survive some damage a bit, or whatever, you know, like deal more damage in special attacks or something. I don't know how the Fire Emblem, you know, tactics and everything equate, and stats, all that equate to, you know, Fire Emblem Warriors. But he would be pretty cool, and I think if we have to get another character from Echoes, that at least if it's not a side character like Gray, it needs to be Alm, because you can't have Celica without Alm, and he should be like the key character to include this DLC. The next character from Genealogy of the Holy War is Sigurd. Why they don't include him, I have no clue. I know his character name is averagely popular. Obviously, it's one of the games that have not come out here. This is a Japan exclusive. We have not gotten a localization or a remake or anything of this yet. I'm assuming his game's going to come soon. I mean, we might get Roy's game first, but we'll probably eventually get Genealogy of Holy War. He is a Knight Lord, so he automatically rides a horse. So he'd be just like Xander or Leo. He uses swords and lances so that he can change up his weapon, like how Link can use multiple weapons in Hyrule Warriors. And he's pretty good at, you know, his defense and luck and skill. He can basically really take a lot of damage. He can be skillful and luck based off the damage he takes or the damage he gives, and he's special attacks. He's just low on speed, obviously, because he's wearing a horse. But obviously, a horse can be fast as well, so he could probably, depending on how his stats go from Fire Emblem to Fire Emblem Warriors, he could probably be a decent character stat-wise. Maybe it's different. Maybe it makes him faster. I don't know. And I do see quite people asking for him. Not as much as, say, Alm or, you know, Ephraim. But he's there, too. And he's one of the characters that are from a Japanese exclusive game. Which, if you start putting these characters like that into games localized around the world, maybe we could finally start getting these remakes out of Genealogy and Thracia and Binding Blade and everything. So, how about, you know, Sigurd to put in? He's not the most requested character, but I think it's something from the history of Fire Emblem of giving us characters that have not come out of Japan yet. His next one is one everybody wants. I don't want him as much as, say, other people, but everybody wants him. And that is from Blazing Blade and Binding Sword and whatever as well. He's in 2 games. We don't have any axe users in this game. We have hammers, tons of swords, some spears, some bowmen, magic users up crazy. We don't have any axes yet, and he's like the key character from the series that uses axes. Now, you can also include his older form from, you know, Binding Blade and then Blazing Sword's young form, and he can have 2 different costumes. His giant beard, like, knight form, and then his lord form here. He has high strength and defense, obviously. He can take a lot of hits and he can dish out a lot back. He's low in speed. He's low in skill. He's low in everything else almost. But he can dish out a lot of damage and he can take a lot of damage. And he's one of the most requested characters in this game. And Lynn's already in there. So how about her little buddy Hector? I can understand if Eli Wood or Ellie Wood, whatever, isn't in. But Hector needs to be in. He needs to be included in the Fire Emblem Warriors 2 or DLC for the game we're getting now. And the final one, and my most wanted main character of the entire Fire Emblem series, and it might not be yours because a lot of people want Hector or or Sigurd or Leaf or whoever the heck else. It's not Leaf. It is Micaiah. I love Micaiah. She's one of my favorite Lord characters, even though she's not technically Lord, one of my favorite main characters from the whole Fire Emblem series, because it's around the time I really started getting into Fire Emblem. Like I said, I started getting in around Ike's games, around Radiant Dawn, Path of Radiance, and I kind of went back to Blazing Sword, or Blazing Blade, Sacred Stones, then kind of getting into Shadow Dragon, and here comes Awakening of Fates, and now we have Echoes and whatnot. She's cool, and we don't have too many main character mages. She's a light mage, which we don't have. Leo's not a light mage, and all the rest of the main characters. There are some villains in the game, hint, we don't judge spoilers, that are basically mages, but they're all like dark mages and stuff. We don't have a light mage, and she would stand out entirely. She could use her tomes. She starts off as a mage. You can go to a sage and a priestess. You can give her some staffs. She does a lot of light magic. She's kind of low on skill, speed, and HP, so she could probably take a whole lot of damage, and not take a whole lot of damage and really kind of be one of the weaker characters in the game, and you have to be really careful when you play as her, and she's not that fast, and she doesn't have that much skill for special attacks, but she's average in strength, so she can deal a decent bit of damage, and she's good at magic, obviously, so when you do her magic attacks, they will do more damage to the soldiers than trying to hit them. And she's good at luck and resistance, so she can take damage, but she can't take a whole lot of damage because she has low HP in her games. But outside that, it's just a cool character. She's a member of the Dawn Brigade. She's a really cool character. She stands out from the rest of the main characters because she's one of the main characters doesn't wield a spear or a sword especially, or an axe or something. She's a mage user, and we haven't really had that a whole lot besides, say, Celica. But Celica also uses swords. She's a straight-up mage, and Micaiah is my most wanted main character from the Fire Emblem series. I want as DLC or in a sequel of a Fire Emblem Warriors. That's my list. Ephraim, Hector, Sigurd, and Micaiah. I hope you guys like this list. Put in the comments what you think. Do you guys want any of these 5 characters in the Fire Emblem Warriors DLC, Fire Emblem Warriors 2 sequel? What main characters, because I'm doing my own videos for side characters and villains, main characters do you want to see from Fire Emblem as DLC or in a sequel? Put in the comments what you guys think, and see you all later in my next video. Peace.